Is your team working remotely? Are they working at home, another city, maybe even another country? I'll share the 3 things you can do to get them to work together. Managing staff is challenging enough, even if they're in the same office as you are. But when they're remotely located, whether in another city or perhaps working from home through an alternate working arrangement, it's even harder. But there are a number of things you can do to manage better with a remote team. It takes some effort, but it can pay off. So number 1, touching bases. The staff who are in the same office as you are probably think they see enough of you, but for remote staff, they probably do not hear enough from you. And that's something you want to do with a regularly scheduled touching bases call. You can do a once a week or every 2 weeks, whatever works in your circumstance. Make sure it's regularly scheduled so that it can be in your calendars. Make it for a very short period of time, perhaps 15 minutes, half an hour at the maximum. If you need more time for something specific, then you can always add that at another time. Or you can expand that particular meeting. Now you need to have a careful balance here. You don't want it to be too often, and you also don't want it to be too far apart. So it's going to depend on your circumstance and that individual. Now you want to set aside time individually, but you also want to have some group conference calls, especially if you have various remote people working for you. And that could include conference calls that have your staff who are in the same office with you. Now by doing this, you're going to have more of an office environment, a more conducive relationship between these remote staff and the people who are in the main office, simply by having them in on the call. And if you structure your call in a way that enables them to share, discuss, hear from others, and have a little bit of general discussion as well, that's going to be the best way to do it. So number 2 is forced interactions. Even when people are working in the same office, they sometimes don't really interact with each other to discuss issues, find solutions, and tap into each other's strengths. In remote teams, it's even worse. So you want to find projects that your remote team members would be interested and engaged in doing, and this is a key thing. It shouldn't distract too much from their core job, but you want something that they're going to have an interest in. They're going to do much better at it if that's the case. Now a key element is that those remote projects, or those projects you have your remote staff doing, have to have an element that requires them to integrate and discuss with their colleagues. They might be coordinating something for you and have to talk to everybody about it. It can be as simple as that. So every now and then you want to test this. So when you're on your regular touching bases call with your staff members who are remote, you want to ask them about that project, about the interactions they've had, the learnings they might have had, and what they've heard from their colleagues. This is a way to reinforce all that. Now you cannot force people to interact, but you can certainly facilitate, and that's your job as a manager. So finally, number 3, share information. When somebody's working remotely, they can often become disconnected from the organization and even their own department and what you are up to. So whenever you speak to them, whether it's on your touching bases call or other calls that you do anyway for specific purposes, always talk to them about what's happening in the department, ask them what's going on, and share information. Tell them what their colleagues are doing. Identify solutions or great ideas that their colleagues have found and share it with them, and even encourage them to call for more information. So those are the 3 things that you can do to help your remote team work better together.